ABC 6 News at noon starts with this breaking news alert.
1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Let's dig.
And there you go, the official groundbreaking for the $20 billion Intel facilities in Licking County. The shovels went into the ground a little more than an hour ago. President Biden on the ground in central Ohio to usher in a new technological era, as promised, for the state's economy. Good afternoon. Welcome to our live coverage of the president's visit here in Licking County. Bob Kendrick along with Kate Seifert. Getting close to the president's arrival, I would imagine.
Yeah, just about probably 10, 15 minutes from now. We'll, of course, bring that to you live as he takes the stage. Senator Rob Portman on stage behind us right now.
Yep. We have a bipartisan roster of dignitaries here among us, including his Democratic counterpart, U.S. Senator Sherrod Brown, who rode on Air Force One over with the president. And we're hearing from the Congressman Troy Balderson, whose district this is, the 12th Congressional District. Democrat Tim Ryan from Youngstown is here. They may benefit the ripple effects from all of this. Some of the dignitaries in attendance for this big day in Ohio.
Yeah, and I understand we're going to hear now. We're going to give you a live listen to Senator Portman, so here he is.
Members of the Ohio House and Senate provided important legislation for the incentive package. Local officials, Dr. Johnson, economic development professionals, those professionals like JP and Kenny worked their heart out. But most importantly, today, congratulations to the people of the great state of Ohio. It is your victory. Today, as we acknowledge all the hard work that went into bringing Intel to Ohio, we also acknowledge the hard work before us that now begins as we begin to close America's competitiveness gap that has grown dangerously wide with regard to semiconductor manufacturing. I'm really proud that Ohioans will play an important role in closing this gap. Special thanks to CEO Pat Gelsinger and his Intel team for the confidence they have shown in the people of Ohio. Pat and I have had a lot of conversations in the last couple of years about what Ohio brings to the table. And I will tell you, as a Midwestern farm kid, he got it instinctively. He understood that our Midwestern values, hard work, resourcefulness, a legacy of manufacturing, and a willingness to embrace technology fit exactly what Intel needed. Incentives from the governor, the state legislature, and the local community didn't hurt. But honestly, every state had an incentive package. Ohio's pro-jobs, pro-business environment that Governor DeWine and the state legislature have nurtured helped. And the new federal infrastructure law was timely. But folks, none of this works without the skilled Ohio workforce that they need. Now it's up to all of us to earn the confidence that they have shown in Ohio, and we will.
Breaking ground on Ohio's future, Intel and beyond. ABC 6 News is on your side, helping you prepare for the next major milestone, one that will change the landscape of our state. Join ABC 6 News for live coverage today. President Biden will make a historic visit for the groundbreaking on a project that could transform Central Ohio into the Silicon Heartland. From economic development to what's next for the people and businesses that call this area home. Today, ABC 6 News is on your side, getting answers about Ohio's future.
Not everyone's excited about President Biden's visit this afternoon. A number of protesters have lined the streets waiting on his arrival. Take a look at this video we got within the last 30 minutes or so. You can see flags, banners, and signs lining Beach Road. It's about a mile away from the Intel site. Most of these folks are supporters of former President Trump. Take a listen to why they're speaking out.
We just want America back. We want low taxes. We want to help people. We're tired of paying all this money to other countries.
We're part of the conservative effort, and we want everybody in America to be treated equal.
A number of protesters we spoke with also have concerns about the Intel project. They're worried about traffic issues and other problems that could come along with it. President Biden is minutes away from speaking at the Intel groundbreaking. You see Senator Joyce Beatty up there, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. We're going to bring you the president live when we come back.
Put them in this space.
President Biden is moments away from speaking at the Intel groundbreaking. The company's $20 billion investment is expected to bring a lot of high-paying jobs to Central Ohio. And Governor DeWine says this initial investment is just the beginning. Now, the president touched down in Columbus around 10:30 this morning. Mike McCarthy was at John Glenn International. And Mike, it appeared to be a picture-perfect morning when Air Force One arrived.
Oh, Terry, it sure was, and it still is here even at this noon hour. You can see Air Force One back there behind us, behind that fence, as we are awaiting President Biden to finish his remarks and then return here to the airport. But when he did arrive this morning, he arrived with crystal clear blue skies, the sun shining so bright on this September day. A day that embodies, in so many ways, the messaging we are hearing today from the governor, from the lawmakers in Washington, from so many people about the bright future that lies ahead with Ohio and Intel. And the fact that the president is now in town participating in this groundbreaking ceremony is yet one more reminder of just how historic this investment is in the state. President Biden arrived here on Air Force One along with some of the lawmakers we've already heard from at today's event, including Senator Sherrod Brown and Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. And as they arrived, Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther was here to welcome them. We asked the mayor what this day means for him from his perspective.
I think this is a perfect example of why the 21st century is going to be the American century. There is nothing that we cannot do when we work together, put partisanship aside, put the polarization aside, and focus on protecting our national interest, our national security, and creating jobs and opportunity. We couldn't be more excited.
The president did not offer any comments before his motorcade left for that groundbreaking ceremony, but he did interact with the mayor this morning, and I asked the mayor, when he does get a chance to shake the president's hand right back there on the tarmac, what will your message be to the president as he arrives in town? We'll share that part of the story coming up all new at 12:30. In the meantime, based upon the timeline outlined by the White House this morning, the president is due back here to depart from Columbus right around 1:45. So a heads up, if your afternoon plans bring you anywhere near John Glenn, Terry, expect some traffic delays because of that rolling roadblock and the president returning here for his departure. We are live on your side right now at John Glenn International. Mike McCarthy, ABC 6 News.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you, Pat, for that introduction. And pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. It was just back in January when we were together at the White House with Senator Brown and Senator Portman announcing this historic investment. In March, I shared the story in my State of the Union address, the story of the Field of Dreams in the middle of Ohio, where America's future will be built. In August, we were back at the White House as I signed the CHIPS and Science Act, one of the most significant science and technology investments in our history. And now, in September, Gov, we're here breaking ground, and thanks for the passport to get to the state, Gov. Appreciate it. All in 9 months in America. I want to thank Sherrod Brown for his relentless work, especially making sure that labor is in on this deal. And Pat just mentioned what Sherrod makes clear. It's time to bury the label Rust Belt and call it, as Pat said, the Silicon Heartland. That's what's happening in these 1,000 acres. I want to thank Rob Portman for being the gentleman and decent man that he is, and for showing that Democrats and Republicans can work together to get big things done for our country. I really mean it. I'm trying to find where he's sitting, but he's a good man. Thank you. You're leaving a hell of a legacy as you leave what you're doing as a consequence of you, in large part. And thanks to the bipartisan group of Ohio congressional delegation here today. Tim Ryan, thank you for your leadership, always representing the interests of working people. Thank you, Congresswoman Joyce Beatty. And, I don't think we could have gotten the infrastructure bill done without Joyce. She was the final capstone. We all thought it was hanging in the balance there, but I don't know what you did that last 4 hours, but whatever you did, you got it done. And Dave Joyce, Anthony Gonzalez, Mike Carey, Tony Balderson for the work in the House. We're also joined by congressional leaders from around the country who fought so hard for this bill. Eddie Bernice Johnson, chair of the House Science Committee. Eddie, this whole bill wouldn't have gotten done without you. It really wouldn't have. I'm also joined by Congressman Ro Khanna. Ro is a tireless champion for American innovation and seeing that workers are part of the deal. While she couldn't be here, Maria Cantwell also deserves a lot of credit. She's chair of the Senate Commerce Committee from the state of Washington. Maria was tireless in getting this bill through the Senate. And again, Mike, I want to thank you for your work on this project as well. And I especially want to thank the labor leaders here. My dear friend Lonnie Stevenson, the IBW, Tim Berger, the president of AFL-CIO, Brent Booker, treasurer of the National Building Trades, Mike Kinsley, president of Ohio Building Trades. You know, it's fitting to break ground for America's future here in Ohio. Think about it. There's kind of a tradition here. The Wright brothers, Neil Armstrong, John Glenn, they defined America's spirit, a spirit of daring and innovation. Pat Chase laid out Intel's vision that builds on that legacy. A brand new $20 billion campus, 7,000 construction jobs, union construction jobs, 3,000 full-time jobs that will pay an average of $135,000 a year, and not all of them built. And here's a critical piece. Intel is using a project labor agreement for this investment. For the folks at home, these are agreements that contractors, subcontractors, and unions put in place before construction begins. They ensure major projects are handled by well-trained, well-prepared, highly skilled workers. They resolve disputes ahead of time, ensuring safer work sites, avoiding disruptions and work stoppages that can cause extensive delays and down the line. These agreements make sure construction is top-notch and projects are on time, on task, and on budget. Back in February, I signed an executive order to make sure federal construction projects use these project labor agreements. It's a big deal that Intel is using one here, and I thank them for that. And Intel is going to build a workforce of the future right here in Ohio. As you already heard, Intel committed $50 million to partner with community colleges and universities like Ohio State University, including Central State University, the only historically black university in Ohio, to build a pipeline for students in the semiconductor industry. The director of National Science Foundation is here, Dr. Ponch. He's here, and IF and Intel are going to invest $50 million each to support these kinds of partnerships. Folks, at home, you may be wondering, why is this such a big deal for manufacturing? Something so small in size as a fingerprint, as a semiconductor. Well, semiconductors are small computers that power everyday lives, smartphones, cars, washing machines, hospital equipment, internet, electric grid, and so much more, including our national security. And here's the deal. America invented this chip. America invented it. It powered NASA's moon mission. Federal investment helped bring down the cost of making these chips, creating a market and an entire industry. As a result, over 30 years ago, America had more than 30% of the global chip production. Then something happened. American manufacturing, the backbone of our economy, got hollowed out. Companies moved jobs overseas, especially from the industrial Midwest. And as a result, today we're down to producing barely 10% of the world's chips, despite leading in chip research and design. And as we saw during the pandemic, when factories that make these chips shut down, the global economy comes to a halt, driving up costs for families and everyone, not just here, but around the world. In fact, 1/3 of the core inflation last year was due to higher prices of automobiles because of the shortage of the semiconductors needed to build those automobiles. Folks, we need to make these chips right here in America to bring down everyday cost and create good jobs. Don't take my word for it. You heard Pat. Listen to the business leaders across this country. They're making decisions right now about where to invest and produce these chips. China, Japan, South Korea, European Union, all these places are investing tens of billions of dollars to attract chip manufacturers to their countries. But industry leaders are choosing us, the United States, because they see America is back and America's leading the way.
Intel has placed its faith in you. They have placed their faith in our women and our men who are building these fabs right now. There is a children's book.
This great state of Ohio has this tradition of manufacturing. You all like to build stuff. And that's exactly what we're going to do together. We are going to build the most advanced stuff in the world right here in Ohio.
The president, the governor, the CEO, and the best damn band in the land, all part of a historic moment in our state. The ground formally broken today on Intel's massive chip factory project in Licking County. Good evening, I'm Bob Kendrick, along with Kate Seifert, coming to you from the site of the groundbreaking today, the site of the new chip factory for Intel, and this historic moment, as I say, near Johnstown, which now becomes a very small neighbor to a very big fish called Intel. And the project right now putting Ohio on the national stage, both economically and academically, and also technologically.
$20 billion, thousands of jobs, and of course, this is all about making those tiny little chips that really have everything to do with our everyday lives. Intel announced it was picking Central Ohio over more than 36 other sites back in January. Ohio is giving the computer giant $2 billion in incentives. The groundbreaking had been put off until after Congress finally passed the Stalled Chips Act and the president signed it. The legislation gives computer chip makers $52 billion, and Intel gets a piece of the pie. The company will employ 3,000 people directly with an average salary of $135,000. The project is also bringing 7,000 construction jobs to Central Ohio.
OSU among the universities that Intel is investing in, part of the company's promise to invest some $50 million out of the gate here in higher education. Columbus State Community College and more than 80 other schools will get some money to create scholarships and boost their technology programs. Intel hopes that this will produce some 9,000 graduates who will be ready to work in the computer chip industry.
We are bringing you team coverage from all of today's events. Luann Stoya is in downtown Johnstown talking to some of the community. I have some of the emotional side of things, talking to people who were here for the big event today.
And let's hear more now from the president about where we're now standing on the national stage as Ohioans.
1, 2, 3.
Yay.
Let's dig.
Ground has broken, and the leaders of our country and Intel want it known that morning has also broken for Ohio and the nation.
It's time to bury the label Rust Belt.
Today, we're the company that's going to put the silicon into the heartland.
Proof, a point that made in Ohio and made in America is no longer just a slogan. It's happening.
It's full speed ahead for the $20 billion facility now that the CHIPS Act has ponied up more than $50 million federal dollars and a tax credit for the semiconductor industry.
And folks at home should know the manufacture of these semiconductors connects countless small businesses and manufacturers into a supply chain that's going to thrive, all because of this law. The CHIPS and Science Act is not handing out blank checks to companies. I've directed my administration to be laser focused on the guardrails that will protect taxpayers' dollars.
Ohio Senator Rob Portman feels it's a critical time and product for U.S. security.
90% of the high-end ones, which we need for our military and a lot of other applications, are being made somewhere else. And that supply chain is not reliable.
And his partner in the Senate, Sherrod Brown, is excited for Ohio's workforce.
These jobs, you don't all need college degrees. Community colleges, apprenticeship programs, all kinds of workers we're going to need.
We just feel, come on down. Ohio wants us. You all like to build stuff. And that's exactly what we're going to do together. We are going to build the most advanced stuff in the world right here.
As earth movers rumbled past, kneading the ground into a place that could be built on, the president ends with a big prediction, inspired by grains of sand.
We're going to look back on this period 20 years from now and say that's when it began to change. God bless you all.
Governor DeWine joined in this groundbreaking ceremony, which happened before President Biden arrived in town. He and other politicians and officials put their shovels in the mound of dirt with the words, "Ohio, let's build on it."
Well, they're doing that right now. And in fact, in the process of, digging up this field here and getting the site ready for construction, they're also unearthing some pretty strong emotions in Johnstown and around the county.
Yeah, and Bob, I found out that there were a lot of mixed emotions about today.
I'm so thankful for being here to hear that speech, sitting here on this ground, because it makes me proud that my grandma did sell her house instead of being, instead of being emotional about it. It makes me proud for her.
An emotional day for Tiffany Hollis. Before Friday, she says she wasn't sure how she would feel about being back to the place where she spent much of her childhood.
I don't know, it's kind of surreal. Like, I really having a hard time wrapping my mind around all of it, that I'm at this intersection. This is where I learned to ride my bike.
But she says now, instead of thinking of Intel as something that took away from her family, it's something that will create opportunities and a legacy.
Gosh, you just think of the emotions of the last few months, and that that's going to be kind of her legacy now.
A lot has changed on these 1,000 acres of land. For some, Friday's event was the first time they've seen the progress.
No, this is my first time actually out on the site besides just driving by on the roads. So I'm even a little bit shocked. You can see some of the construction as you drive by on the roads, but once you're just being out here and seeing all the ground that they've cleared and just the amount of dirt that they've moved, it's pretty amazing. Residents in awe, having a president to their small, blue-collar, all-American town.
And whoever the sitting president is, it's amazing. It's exciting and amazing, and I think it's nothing but positive stuff for Intel and what's to come for the state of Ohio.
They say the future looks bright, especially for their families and businesses that have been rooted here for generations.
The small businesses, I can't be more excited for the small businesses and the opportunities to come with the small businesses within Johnstown.
Intel hosting a community barbecue here tonight. You may hear a marching band in a moment. It's the Johnstown High School band here warming up for the crowd. And in their hometown, Intel is, I would think safe to say, going to dominate the conversation here in the years to come. And certainly around, meeting rooms and the dinner table. This is what they're going to be talking about right now anyway.
Yeah, or the diner. That's where you can find our Luann Stoya. She spent the day at Dashing Diner, which is along Main Street in downtown Johnstown. And Luann, people coming up with a lot of mixed opinions there, too.
Well, certainly plenty of people are embracing their rural roots, but we also found that folks are looking forward to the Silicon Heartland.
Central Ohio on the world stage. At the Dashing Diner in Johnstown, the launch of the Intel chip manufacturing plant brings with it a Made in America pride.
I have 3, almost 4 grandchildren, and 3 of them live here in Johnstown, so gosh, the opportunity that's coming for them is pretty exciting.
Also on the menu as the Intel project gets underway, fear of what will happen to their community. This couple owns a business in Johnstown and hopes the city will flourish.
Maybe some campuses and new schools and great big shopping areas. I mean, I think all of that will definitely follow.
There's political wrangling on who should take credit for Intel. Brian Boddicker says it's time to come together.
I think we gotta forget parties and just think we the American people.
People here tell us this ceremony will be remembered for days and years to come.
This little tiny chip here, causing such a ruckus, but the world's ran on it, so to keep up with this process and then to be a part of Johnstown is pretty exciting.
And so planning and perseverance, people here in Johnstown coming to grips with what's next for their community. We're live and on your side. Back to you, Kate and Bob.
All right, right, thanks, Lou. Well, that'll wrap up our team coverage for this hour here from the Intel site, but you can rest assured that we'll be frequent visitors here to the site. You practically taken up residence.
I know, I should just move right in.
With all the stories, yeah. We'll, of course, be watching very closely as Intel's project moves full speed ahead.
All right, back to you, Stacia and Jen.